Hello, wine lovers! I am Yaroslava, sommelier and wine educator, your guide on this journey through the world of wines, spirits and cocktails. With this video, I begin a series exploring the viniculture of Greece, a country whose wine heritage is as fascinating as it is complex. In today's episode, we will delve into the rich history of Greek viniculture, modern wine regulations, and the unique character of Greece's iconic wine, Retsina. For many, Greece evokes vivid images of wine's ancient roots, amphoras, Dionysus, Bacchanalia, and a history steeped in the free flow of wine. But paradoxically, Greek wine often goes unnoticed in the modern world, rarely coming to mind when browsing a wine shop. Greece is often regarded as the cradle of world winemaking and the progenitor of European viniculture. While the exact origins of Greek winemaking are lost in the mist of time, it is widely believed that viniculture reaches Greece via Egypt and Phoenicia, both of which inherited it from the ancient winemaking traditions of the Caucasian and Mesopotamia. Greece embraced and refined the craft, spreading it across the Mediterranean. For over 4,000 years, or perhaps as many as 6, Greeks have been making wine with some of the world's oldest grape varieties still thriving on Greek soil. Yet, despite its rich heritage, Greece can struggle to achieve modern recognition as a producer of prestigious wines. In ancient Greece, wine was as abundant as water, though its quality remains a mystery. The Greeks often mixed their wine with herbs, spices, and even salt water, suggesting it may not have been of finest quality, or perhaps it simply affected their penchant for culinary experimentation. Despite this, Greek wines were highly prized by the Romans, and during the Middle Ages, northern Europeans paid premium prices for wines from Aegean Island. But it is worth noting that, at the time, the range of available wines were limited. Centuries of Turkish rule dealt with devastating blow for Greek viniculture, as wine consumption was heavily discouraged. While the Greeks continued to grow grapes and produce wine, they could not compete with the flourishing viniculture of France and Italy, where monastic traditions had carefully nurtured winemaking into the art form. The landscape and climate of Greece pose significant challenges for quality viniculture. Summers are hot and dry, while autumn often brings early rains that can threaten the harvest. In many regions, powerful winds are so strong that vineyards require protective measures. As a result, the most suitable locations for vineyards are often on the mountain slopes, which, while providing better conditions, are far more difficult to cultivate than flat terrain. Despite these obstacles, Greek winemaking has persisted through the centuries. In the 1980s, marked the beginning of the modern renaissance of Greek viniculture, yielding increasingly impressive results. Interestingly, the economic crisis of 2008 became an unexpected turning point for Greek winemaking. With the collapse of the domestic wine market and the decline of export to Eastern European countries, which had been long favored Greek semi-sweet and sweet wine, producers were forced to adapt to the global wine market. A new generation of winemakers stepped up, seeking training in France and other innovative wine regions, and worked tirelessly to revolutionize Greek winemaking. Exotic offerings like Retsina were moved aside, and the focus shifted from sweet and semi-sweet wines to more globally appealing dry wines. At first, Greek winemakers leaned toward cultivating international grape varieties like Syrah and Sauvignon Blanc. However, they quickly realized that even expertly crafted version of these wines could not effectively compete with their French and Italian counterparts in an already crowded market. This realization led them back to their roots, Greece's extraordinarily wealth for over 200 indigenous grape varieties. By embracing local grapes and blending traditional practices with modern winemaking technologies, Greece has established a renewed and distinctive viniculture tradition. Today, Greek wines are gaining increasing recognition on the global stage, celebrating their unique character and heritage. The improvement in Greek wine quality over just a few years is remarkable. When I first visited Greece in 2017, I discovered some fantastic wines, but finding them required careful selection to avoid disappointment. By the time I returned in 2021, the difference was striking. I didn't encounter a single poor quality wine. Let's not say every wine was exceptional. That would be unrealistic in any country. But the overall quality of everyday table wine could improve it dramatically, making it much easier to enjoy a bottle of wine without extensive searching. Let's explore Greek wine laws and how they are reflected on labels. Greeks follows EU wine regulations, which plays a significant role in how wine information is presented for customers. For a deeper dive into these regulations and how they apply across Europe, check out my video Learn to Read Labels Europe, linked in the first comment. In summary, Greek wines, like those in the rest of the EU, are classified into two main categories based on geographical identification. The first category is table wine, or just simply wine, which does not indicate a specific geographical origin. The second category includes wines with geographical indications. They were divided into two groups: protected geographical indication (PGI) and protected designation of origin (PDO). Greek wine laws are heavily inspired by French regulations, with categories essentially mirroring French terms. This influence is why many Greek wines labels include French translation. For instance, this bottle purchased in Greek features the wine category and other details in Greek in the front label, while the back label provides the category in French. Wine exported to the USA typically display categories in Greek and English, or sometimes exclusively in English. For example, this bottle of Retsina, both in the USA, lists or labels information in English for accessibility. Additionally, some Greek wine labels, like this Nemea bottle purchased in Greece, included optional details in English, even when not legally required. This is particularly common for the globally recognized producers, such as Papanomiou, one of Greece's top winemakers. Including English description makes the labels more tourist-friendly, even for bottles intended for a local market, enhancing their appeal in the international audience. As I discussed in my video on European wine laws, while the EU provides principal regulation, each country incorporates its own unique characteristic. Greece is no exception, offering distinct classification that reflects each winemaking traditions. Notably, Greece has two specific PDO categories and two PGI categories. PDO categories. First, PDO. Ainoe Onomasias Proelevtion Elenhamini, also referred as Appellation d'origine contrôlée or Appellation d'origine protégée. This category is reserved for regions historically recognized for production high quality sweet wines. These wines are primarily crafted from the Muscat, a white grape, and Mavrodaphne, red grape varieties. The question of whatever Greek have a sweet tooth is curious one. A prominent winemaker in Crete once told me that they don't, and the enduring popularity of Retsina, a notably dry and distinct wine, seemed to support this claim. However, for much of the 20th century, sweet and semi-sweet wines enjoyed enormous popularity in Eastern Europe, a key export market for Greece. As a result, Greek winemakers produced significant quantities of sweet style. By the 1970s, when the modern Greek wine law system was established, sweet wines were a source of national pride. To honor this tradition, Greece created a dedicated PDO specifically for sweet wines, encompassing 8 regions. While the focus in recent years has shifted toward dry wines, this PDO still exists today, and it is now includes some dry wine as well. For example, this red wine from Nemea falls under this PDO category, but it is dry, showcasing how the distinction evolved over time. Second PDO category, Ainoe Onomasias Proelevseos Anateros Paeatites, APAP, also known as Appellation d'origine de qualité supérieure. This category encompasses wine that falls outside the scope of AAP classification. It primarily includes high quality dry wines of any color, both sparkling and sweet wines may also be produced under this designation. For example, this 2004 red wine from Nemea is classified under the APAP category, demonstrating its focus on premium quality and regional distinction. Greek protected geographical indication PGI categories. First PGI category, Topicus Anois, TO, also referred as Vin de Pays. This designation aligns with the EU PGI categories. It covers wines that don't meet the strict requirements of the APAP, but are still produced under established quality standards. This category is notable for its inclusion of wines made from not native Greek varieties, offering a broader range of style and innovation while maintaining a connection with Greek terroir. Second PGI category, Ainoe Onomasias Cata Paradoxe, AKT, Appellation Traditionnelle. This uniquely Greek category is reserved for a single wine, Retsina. Unlike other wine classification, which require production to be tied to specific region, AKT designates the entire country of Greece as a production area for Retsina. This means that only wine produced within Greece can legally bear the name Retsina. All four similar wines are made elsewhere, such in Australia, where they cannot use a protected name. The creation of this category acknowledges Retsina as a distinct product that does not fully comfort the standard definition of wine, which typically requires to be made exclusively from a fresh grape. The addition of pyrazine during production, a hallmark of Retsina, sets it apart and underscores its traditional Greek heritage. Retsina is the first wine that comes to mind when discussing Greek wines. No other countries traditionally add resin to wine, far from the Australian, who produce similar version, they are mere imitators. The very name Retsina derives from the Greek word resin, reflecting its defining ingredient. This tradition originates from ancient times, when wine was stored in clay vessels. To prevent air exchange and oxidation, the neck of these vessels was sealed with resin. The resin flavor was initially arose as an intention side effect of this storage method. By the 3rd century AD, the Romans had invented the wooden wine barrels, which eliminate the need for fragile amphoras sealed with resin. However, the Greeks had already developed a fondness for this resin-fusing taste, and began deliberately adding resin to their wine. Historical anecdotes suggest that adding resin to wine served another purpose, defiance. The Romans, who occupied Greece at that time, found the resin flavor unappealing and avoided drinking Retsina, leaving it for Greeks. Centuries later, during the Ottoman occupation, wine consumption was discouraged, yet the Greeks steadfast preserved their unique tradition for resin-infused wine. Modern Retsina is a dried white wine made by adding resin from the Aleppo pine during fermentation. As wine ferments, it absorbs flavors from the resin, which when removed through filtration. The primary grape varieties used for Retsina production are Salatiana and Rhoditis. While white Retsina remains the most common, a small amount of Rosé Retsina also produced using the same process. Full Retsina is made throughout Greece. The Attic region, home of Athens, remains the primary production area, where the city serves as the largest consumer. Retsina is known for being simple, light, and affordable, making a popular choice for everyday drinking. In the 19th century, Athens boasted around 6,000 taverns, where locals would leisurely enjoy jars of Retsina, often made directly on site. Grapes from local vineyards were brought to these taverns, where the wines were made and consumed almost immediately. Until the 1960s, Retsina was rarely bottled and exported, remaining a beloved local drink. However, starting in the 1980s, some producers began to place greater emphasis to the quality. Today, a bottle of Retsina can be bought not only in every Greek store, but also around the world. For example, I bought its bottle in Seattle. High quality Retsina is a fascinating and enjoyable wine, full of its remains distinct and acquired taste. When made primarily with Salativana, it offers a fresh, mineral floral aroma. While Rhoditis is the main grape, the main takes a more mineral fruity fragrance. This aroma blends with resin bitter, oily, and slightly salty notes, reminiscent of fina sherry. The unique flavor of Retsina pairs beautifully with a bold, savory taste of Greek cuisine. It is best served well chilled at temperature of 9 degrees centigrade. Today, I have, of course, a bottle of Retsina from Attica. Let's give it a try. This one for you, this one for me. The resin aroma is dominant. And gentle, refreshing profile of green apples and lemons, with note of freshly cut grass, and contrast of a bitter undertow of resin. Quite a good Retsina. Flavor is unusual compared with typical wines, but it's certainly interesting. This concludes the story of Greek viniculture, the modern wine laws, and the iconic Greek wine Retsina. Following videos will be about viniculture of Crete, Santorini, and mainland Greece. Stay with me, subscribe to my channel. Feel free to ask questions and don't hesitate to support me. Aloha!